Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Operation Committee meeting of Tuesday, April 15th. First up, we have the Pembroke Land Acknowledgement. So as we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generation of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with a statement we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. So any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Need a motion to move the meeting agenda. Councillor Frenier, Councillor Purcell, those in favor? Approved. Minutes, I need approval of the minutes of Operation Committee meeting of March 18th. Moved by Councillor Giacono, accepted by Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? Approved. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. We're up first, order of business with presentations this evening. First up is the Mayor's Award.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. The City of Pembroke is fortunate to have many caring, dedicated, and faithful individuals who contribute each in their own way to the fabric of what is the beautiful City of Pembroke. And tonight I wish to acknowledge a duo that I would describe as stealthy. And you'll understand why I say that in a moment. I can still think back to 2010, shortly after the election, and I received a call from one Lou Hamill, who's with us tonight, together with his lovely wife, Lisa. He introduced himself to me and indicated that he wanted to have a conversation on behalf of the two of them to talk about various issues, knowing that the election had just happened. We met and had a great conversation about Pembroke. We talked about business, the needs of the business community, primarily talking about the businesses in the downtown where obviously Giant Tiger is situated. And I quickly realized that if I wanted input about the business community, no matter where it was in the City of Pembroke, I just needed to call either Lou or Lisa, and I would find out what I needed to know at that time. And so over the years, Lou and Lisa have been very good to speak to me about various issues, whether it's the dynamics of the downtown, thoughts on various things that it could improve Pembroke, not only the downtown, but the entire City of Pembroke, and that they're extremely proud of the City of Pembroke. And I know from my various dealings with the community over a large number of different projects over the years that Lou and Lisa have been seriously a big help and a big heart helping various individuals and organizations largely behind the scenes, and hence that's why I say stealthy. And so it's hard, I would say, that to continue to do great work and always try to stay behind the scenes, because eventually it gets out that you're one of those individuals or group of individuals that are constantly doing various things for the benefit of the City of Pembroke, and that is the two of you. I truly respect the various things and that you've done over the years, and obviously a great effort has been extended to remain anonymous, but as I say, through various projects and various things that have happened with the City of Pembroke over the last number of years, particularly in the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years, with the challenges that the City of Pembroke has faced, there's an ongoing presence behind the scenes, and you might not know unless you're in the thick of it, as we are as council members or individuals that are frontline trying to address the various concerns that the community has. And so certainly I would say that from my various involvement with various individuals on a number of these very challenging topics, that it does not go unnoticed. And that's the whole point of this. I'm not going to get into the specifics of some of the things, because you've obviously gone to great lengths to remain stealthy and to do great work, but to do it from behind the scenes. And I just know from various different items that have come forward that your hands have been in various items, making sure that the City of Pembroke be the beautiful City of Pembroke, and that all individuals are recognized, all individuals, no matter who they are respected, and that they get the care that they need. And so, Lou and Lisa, together you exemplify what it means to be leaders and volunteers. You exhibit all that is good of a citizen of our beautiful City of Pembroke. And for that, as Mayor of the City of Pembroke, I feel it important to recognize you this evening. I want to thank you for all that you have done for our community, and that despite certain efforts, I and others do see what you do to take care of all of us. And for that, on behalf of the City of Pembroke, I am eternally grateful. And so at this time, if I could get you to come up for a moment. It's a small token of our appreciation to recognize everything that you have done for all of the individuals. It's not just when we are on council, it's not just the individuals sometimes that speak the loudest. Sometimes it's those individuals that need a voice, and you give them the voice.
Thanks.
So on behalf of the City of Pembroke, I just want to give you this presentation. It says Mayor's Award presented to Lou and Lisa in recognition and appreciation of your dedicated service to our community. Did you want to come up and say a few words?
She's gonna let me talk. Oh, dear God, we'll be here. We'll be here for an hour. So Lisa and I and our family moved here in 2008. We took over from Russ and Susan Kerr, and just wonderful people to transfer the ownership of store number 3 here in Pembroke. I won't bore you with all the details, but just to keep track of a lot of things that have happened and we've done, and with the help of the city as well as the county, and I just we feel like we're at home, and we felt like that just from the time we got here. And what a wonderful community, and just all the neat things that happen here. Just the simple fact that there's caring people here that want to see the best that Pembroke can be. So we're very happy to be here. We will probably most likely retire here, and we'll fill our days when we retire with lots of other stuff that'll take us to new journeys. And I couldn't do it without my wife, and can't say enough about what Lisa does behind the scenes. Like, people have no idea what she's done for the store and the community. So thank you very much for this, and this will be well displayed in our store. And we get to take it home with us?
You get to take it home with
Okay,
you.
we get to take it home with us. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Come on up.
Okay.
Come on up.
Oh,
Sorry. Good stuff.
One more. Cheese.
geez.
And I'm glad to hear you might retire here. That's
Yeah.
good news.
Yeah,
That's
we
definitely
will
good
be.
news.
We will, the families.
All right, next up, we have a presentation by the Pembroke Legion for the Legion Crosswalk. I'd like to welcome Stan Holliday and Rick Powers up here to make a presentation.
Great to be here, and this gentleman did make a donation to our crosswalk. I've been working on this for the last 3 weeks, I guess, and his honor called me to see if I could look into it. And I've been busy raising money, and I think everybody got a copy of what the cost is going to be. And we would like to have it put in September and not before, simply because we have 2 functions in October and then Remembrance Day in November. So if that's all right with council and Mr. Mayor, we'd like to have it no sooner than November if it gets passed here tonight. Go ahead.
Yes, we were hoping for the 3rd week in September, which is our Legion Week, if it is passed. We figure it'd be a great time to do the opening of it, because we do a memorial down at the cenotaph, and that's why we're targeting that date, if at all possible.
And the total cost is $9,944, tax included. And it's A1 cart pavement markings from Ottawa that would do the job. And I think you all know Jason, the owner.
Councillor Purcell?
Thank you very much for your presentation in regards to the commemorative walkway, or crosswalk. I have one question, and it's just in terms of the design. I see the design in front of us. Now, I know that Command had put out a commemorative walk, crosswalk, like a pattern to be followed. So I'm just wondering if that is some consideration. And what it does, it has, in honor of those who have served and sacrificed, English on one side of the crosswalk, French on the other side of the crosswalk, with 2 maple leaves. And that's just, I'm just kind of going by what's on the Legion website in terms of recommendations for crosswalks. So I just want to make sure that we're aligned with something that's, that's kind of got a, the wish in terms of
Well,
Command.
I can contact the guy who puts it in and get an extra price and everything else, and I can work on that. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of the maple leaves in English one side and French on the other.
Correct. Yeah.
Parce que
and
je parle
it's-
français aussi bien que je parle anglais.
Exactly, exactly. We have a bunch of francophone community here within the city of Pembroke, and I think it's respectful for them as well. But I do appreciate that, and I do think it's a great location. I think it's it's in an area where you don't have it's not crossing the main street, so you have a lot more traffic across the walkway. But that being said, I do think it's really works out well in terms of heading to the cenotaph, and I do think it's really commemorative to the sacrifices that many have and continue to do in defending our country, and I think it's very respectful. So, and you have my full support. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councillor Fenny?
I want to thank you too. I think this is a great idea, and it had come up, I guess about 6 or 7 months ago, someone had asked, and I had sent an email to the mayor, and he said, yeah, he's on it, and so I was really glad, and then when you called me and said that you were all over it, I just want to thank you so much for all the time you put
Thank you.
in, and Stan.
Well, I wasn't alone. This gentleman here helped me.
Yes,
Well, no,
exactly.
I have to give the credit to Rick. Rick really went around and did a great job. So I was always informed and in the background,
Yeah.
but I have to credit Rick for this.
Well, thank you to whoever was involved. Thank you so much.
Councillor Keel up first.
So generally speaking, right out of the gate, I mean, I certainly support this. I think it adds, frankly, I think some beauty to downtown. It'll be our second non-regular crosswalk. I do have 2 issues though. Number one, from the perspective of accessibility, do these colored crosswalks, are they accessibly, are they viewed under accessible standards? Because obviously there's a reason that we do things on the roads and whatnot, and it has been brought to my attention, for instance, that the other crosswalk downtown has no white lines across it, and people with sight issues and that can be problematic. And we don't put road paintings and we don't put road signs out to be pretty. We put them out for a safety function. So has anybody looked into that ever? And does anybody with accessibility knowledge, can they vary me from any fears that this is not the best idea? I understand where the idea is coming from. That's just one of my concerns. My other concern is, to be honest, asking the city to fund it. We did not fund the other one that's downtown. I know in speaking with other members of council, a number of us have the view that frankly we wish these would pop up all over the place. The accessibility issue aside, it would be wonderful to have a horticultural society crosswalk. It would be wonderful to have a Boys and Girls Club crosswalk. I do think, especially with our murals downtown, that this actually complements that. But are we setting a precedent? Are we setting a precedent to pay for these? And are we going to sit here as we do, and as I keep saying, I wish we would stop, deciding for whom we will pay for certain things, and then for whom we will say we won't pay for certain things? Are we going to, like I said, if the Boys and Girls Club comes and sits there, are we going to suddenly have a discussion around this table about whether the Boys and Girls Club is as worthy as the Legion? And I'm sure that that's not the intent of what we want to do. But I'm not talking to you on this one. I'm more talking to council, which is, are we going to set the precedent that we are going to pay for these when people ask for them? Because again, I would, if our downtown had nothing but these, I think, we potentially could make national news again with the beauty of our downtown. But those are my two concerns. One is there any expert opinion on whether these, for safety reasons, are a good idea? And then my second concern is us paying for half of this one, not having paid for any of the last one, and then what do we do about the next one? And certainly that's not, I have all the love and respect in the world for the Legion. I'm a member of the Legion. But the next people sitting at your table probably won't be you guys coming back for a second one. It's going to be another group. And then what position are we in at that point in time when they say, well, we also want you to pay for half of ours? So generally speaking, I support it. I would certainly approve doing this, subject to any safety concerns. The only negative aspect of my comment is kind of the who's paying for it part, because it's just the precedent that we're setting that I concern myself about. But I appreciate the work that you've put in with this. I appreciate the fact that your current design, and I think I know which design Troy is talking about. It doesn't include anything that shouldn't be stepped upon or driven over. With all due respect to some of the people on Facebook, some of their ideas I think were somewhat offensive in terms of what they would like to see as their version of this crosswalk. So I'm glad that we have you here. Our veteran community is the one asking for this, and not so much the Facebook people sort of throwing their opinion on your back. So thank you for coming, and like I said, I'll support this as much as I can, but I do have a couple questions about it.
I understand that, and I will continue raising funds as much as I can. And a lot of the veterans have already made donations. One lady here, $1,000. I gave 1,000. Somebody else gave 500. And I'll keep raising as much funds as I can. And I just got a message from one of our council members. He's going to make a donation. So if anybody wants to make donations, I'll take it.
I will also make a donation.
Thank you.
Councillor Giacono?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question I have is how many dollars have you raised to date?
Just about 5,000.
Okay. And so are you requesting council to foot a balance of that or a percentage of that? I haven't seen a request.
Well, we will raise as much as we possibly can, and I will ask council to donate the balance.
Okay. My other question through you, Mr. Chair, is I like the idea. I think it's a tribute to the veterans, all those that have given to our country in a great way, many with their lives. Does this conform with the Department of Transportation's Ministry of Transport, especially where, from what I see, it would be at our stoplights here, right? Correct?
Yeah,
Be on McKay.
on McKay, yeah.
Okay.
Commendation.
Does it conflict with any Ministry of Transportation orders about site designations or detraction for safety for the public? That's my only concern. I mean, sometimes somebody will see, a red and think red, okay, I see red, and they'll cross. I'm just saying people are older. I'm just wondering if we would have that information, or does it conflict with anything? And if not, then I'm for it. But if there's a conflict with the Department of Ministry of Transport for safety, I mean, that's another issue, right?
The,
City.
Councillor
probably
Jack, there is a
look
report
into it.
coming. Councillor Jack, there is a report coming later this evening.
Thank you.
And I'm sure some
Thank you.
information can be settled there.
Other than that, you got my thumbs up.
Thank you.
I have the
Councillor
mayor up
Cash.
next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to thank you for coming this evening, as well as for the patience working with myself, with staff to work through what it is that you were envisioning by this, and working together with not necessarily the Legion, but it's a veterans crosswalk. So working with you as veterans to recognize the veterans, and yes, that's what I was going to say, is that there is a report coming forward, working closely with staff to ensure what it is that was coming forward was suitable for what was being proposed, and things like which side of the street and so forth, recognizing the number of traffic on one side. As we all know, Mr. Lewis is very analytical, and so the thought that went in behind what's being proposed. But thank you for the patience working with us, with staff, to try and get us to this particular point, and we'll receive a report a little bit later this evening, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
Right, thank you. It's a wonderful idea, but I know it's been being worked on behind the scenes for quite a while. And we were all contacted from different people about this, and it's an excellent location right beside the cenotaph. And it's an excellent way of thanking and remembering those who fought for our freedoms. Thank you.
All right. No other. Councillor Frenny, final words?
Through the chair, if anyone is watching and wants to make a donation to this, how would they contact you, or how would they make that donation, Rick?
Most of them gave by check, made out to the city,
Okay,
and some gave cash,
Contact you, though.
but just contact me, that's all.
okay, so contact Stan Halliday to get a hold of Rick Powers
no
or the
problem.
city.
No problem.
Like it goes on and on, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
They could contact the city.
or they could phone the Legion and we'll give them the information.
Perfect,
Or
okay,
if they want to make a donation, they can drop it off at the Legion.
yeah,
One
and I'll be
person,
making a
whoever's
donation
in
as
the
well,
office.
so, okay. Thank you very much.
All right. No further questions. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. And if anyone wants to leave, they certainly can now, as the presentations are all done, before we start our reports. But if you want to stick around, you're welcome to.
I'm gone, see you later.
Oh, yes, that's right. Okay, thank you. Thanks again, everybody. That was a nice surprise.
Thank you. Okay, great. We'll move on to our new business now. So first up, we have Mr. Lewis giving us a little presentation on the Pembroke Legion crosswalk. Welcome to the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll follow up the presentation from the Legion. The recommendation from staff is that the Operations Committee approve of the installation of a durable line marking crosswalk to honor Canadian veterans. We know the location is at Pembroke Street and McKay Street. And we recommend committee approve a cost-sharing agreement, 50% of the cost to a maximum of $5,000 to be funded from the traffic control O&M budget. And we just heard from Mr. Powers, he's going to try and raise some additional funds. So that would kick in that maximum of $5,000, so depending on how much they need. So the financial comment, a third-party contractor will be used for this work, paid for by the city, all costs above the city's contribution being invoiced to the Pembroke Legion. Costs for staff to do traffic control and to review the demo of the installation would be charged to the current O&M accounts as a donation in kind. In the 2025 budget, there is $3,000 for durable line marking. With durable line marking in place at various locations, we also anticipate that we're going to have a surplus in the line painting budget of approximately $1,500 to $2,000. So the background, so we just had the presentation from the representatives of the Legion on the proposal for a commemorative crosswalk adjacent to the cenotaph. Crosswalk would cross McKay Street on the north side of Pembroke Street. Several communities have installed similar commemorative crosswalks honoring Canadian veterans. There's one very, very similar, actually where the picture was taken, is in Petawawa. It was installed last year. The crosswalk would be installed in coordination with our annual line painting, and as Mr. Powers mentioned, with the hopes that it's in time for Legion Week in September. Discussion, the Operations Department has no concerns with the installation of durable line marking. I will address some of the comments that were made earlier during the presentation at the end. There are traffic signals at the location for traffic management and pedestrian control. We are aware that Mr. Powers obtained the quote for $8,800 plus HST, and we are using the same contractor that does our annual road painting. So we have used that contractor in the past. We're very confident in their work. For some context on the product is a durable poured-in-place line marking product. The Operations Department would like to trial this. Last year, we did a number of crosswalks in a torched-on product, durable line marking, but it's a torched-on product. We would like to demo this, this poured-in-place product to do a comparison for the future so that we can determine which product is the best. The estimated lifespan on the product is 3 to 5 years. I've seen durable line marking like this last much longer than the 5-year lifespan. Trying to address some of the questions and concerns that was raised during the presentation. Excuse me. The crosswalk as proposed does meet the Ontario Traffic Council's regulations. It has the white lines that border running with the crosswalk. And the design that's proposed also has the white ladder pattern. That's what we are using now. The only difference would be the red that's in there. So the visual is still the same with that white ladder pattern. The red that's in between is the commemorative part along with the wording. I also looked at the website that the Legion recently put out this new pattern. The way I read the website and the information that was provided, that would be their suggestion rather than this previous suggestion that everybody wanted to use with putting poppies down. Rather than using poppies, use the maple leaf. But I understand it's a local Legion. They have the opportunity to design their own and use their own. They don't necessarily have to go with the maple leaf. But I will work with the Legion if they decide to go with a different pattern. So it does meet accessibility. The twizzies, the little bumps on the sidewalk that tell you where you're at a crosswalk, are on the sidewalk. They're not affected by this. The material is non-slip, durable, and it meets the Ontario Traffic Council. So it does meet the AODA, it does meet the Ontario Traffic Council, and they have these all over. Ontario is really starting to do a lot of these, not just commemorative, but in downtown cores, they're using various different colors and patterns, welcoming, that kind of stuff. So as long as we have that ladder pattern and the parallel lines, we meet all the requirements. I think I got all the questions. Thank you.
So, the Mayor, first up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that the City of Pembroke Operations Committee recommend to Council to approve the installation of a durable line marking crosswalk to honor Canadian veterans at the intersection of Pembroke Street East and McKay Street, and furthermore that the Council approve a cost-sharing agreement with the city's contribution being 50% to a maximum of $5,000 funded through the traffic control O&M budget.
Deputy Mayor? Seconded. Further questions? Councillor Keel?
I would ask that we split the question into the two parts.
Okay. So, First up would be, call a question for the first motion would be to approve the crosswalk. Then, call a question, those in favor? Okay, carried unanimously. Then the second part of the mayor's motion was to cost share the crosswalk at 50% to a maximum of 5,000 funded from the traffic control OMM budget. So call the question, those in favor of that? And opposed? It's carried. Okay. Next up is Horace Street petition, second entrance to Bishop School Catholic High School. Director Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a petition from the residents of Horace Street was provided to all of council listing the concerns with the proposed second entrance to Bishop Smith Catholic High School. And throughout the report, I may refer to it as the school, just so I don't have to repeat that long name. This staff report does provide comments from the Operations Department in response to the issues that were raised. Further, the Operations Department is recommending committee approve the concept in principle of a second entrance to Bishop Smith Catholic High at the north end of Horace Street to allow the school board to present an offer to purchase non-viable city lands adjacent to the school board adjacent to the school board property for the installation of a private entrance. And I'll add to that, should committee approve this evening, staff asks if the intention is to declare the non-viable land surplus in principle. That would just give us the opportunity to go ahead and start the process. And then the resolution to formally declare land surplus would come at a future meeting. The CAO has reviewed the report and has been involved in discussions regarding this second entrance for quite some time with us. And he reiterates that the existing Carmody Street entrance at the school has been a long-standing health and safety issue for all road users and an area of significant traffic congestion for the community. The proposed second entrance will alleviate a lot of the issues and greatly improve the situation for all users. Financial, there is no immediate financial implications associated with the report. All costs for the second entrance to the school, costs associated with upgrading bus loading zones, parent drop-off zones, modification to staff parking on the school site, and costs associated with the sale of property will be borne by the Renfrew County Catholic District School Board. Some background, so as the committee is aware, the school board, through staff, approached the operations department with a proposal to open the northeast end of Horace Street to be used as a second entrance to the school property. At the Operations Committee meeting on February 18th, I presented a report regarding the proposal. On February 21st, residents of Horace Street provided a petition to the city opposing the proposal. The petition was provided to council as part of the March 4th agenda package. Public meeting was held at the school on March 19th to present the proposal to the public, and the school board provided a presentation to committee here at City Hall on April 1st regarding the proposal for a second entrance. During all the previous reports and presentations, there has been an emphasis on the severity of the current traffic situation on Carmody Street, and especially the intersection of Carmody, Everett, and Eganville Road. Additionally, concerns have been raised regarding the safety of the students and staff in the event of a fire or other emergency, with only one road for emergency services to currently access the school. Operations staff met with school board representatives on April 9th and discussed the comments, questions, and concerns that was raised at the previous meetings. To help alleviate some of the concerns raised, the school board added at that meeting on April 9th that they will consider additional traffic management deterrents on the private entrance, such as raised concrete medians at the parking lot, speed bumps, and other speed deterrent devices. Traffic management devices are known to deter increased use of traffic. An education campaign will be conducted by the school promoting Carmody Street as the parent and student access to the school, which it is now. Related to the petition, as well as some of the concerns that were raised at the school board's public meeting, operations staff have provided comments to the concerns, and I've highlighted those in the report by stating the concern that was brought forth first and then operations staff's comments. So first concern was contribution of an unaccepted unacceptable levels of traffic and noise to the residents on Horace Street. So any increase in traffic is only anticipated for less than an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon for 194 school days in a year. The proposal, with the proposal, the school is able to increase the student bus loading and unloading from a few to upwards of 10 buses at a time, which should effectively decrease the amount of time the buses need to be on site, therefore less time with traffic impacts on Horace Street. So I'm using 1 hour, but basically it's about 35 minutes that the buses run through their motions on the school site. We use the hour because there's one late bus that comes a little bit later that extends it a little bit further. But basically it's 35 minutes of that rush of buses. No school traffic is anticipated on the weekends, holidays, or during summer months. There may be some special events that the school hold, but there's no school traffic. Another concern, this will require the restructuring of the road. Carmody Street has been upgraded to facilitate the purpose. So Carmody Street was rehabilitated in 2020. It was an asphalt replacement project only. The existing asphalt was removed and replaced with 2 lifts of asphalt totaling 90 millimeters in depth. 90 millimeters is the same depth that's existing on Horace Street right now. The sidewalk extension on Carmody Street, there was a discussion about the sidewalk extension being done on Carmody Street to facilitate traffic on Carmody Street. The sidewalk extension that was done on Carmody Street was completed to eliminate an orphan sidewalk. We often talk about the orphan sidewalks throughout the city and trying to eliminate those orphan sidewalks. We had a sidewalk that went about 2/3 the way down Carmody Street. We just extended it to meet up with the paved shoulder that the school has on the school property that allows for pedestrian traffic. Another concern, the infrastructure on Horace Street is not able to withstand the weight of the buses. Horace Street's in poor condition. Bus traffic will damage underground infrastructure. The operations department did a bunch of reviews to answer to those concerns. The Horace Street dead end has a PCI of 63. It's considered to be in fair condition, not poor. The average PCI for all of Horace Street is 55, still considered to be in fair condition. In comparison, approximately 28 kilometers of the city's 100-kilometer road network is considered in poor or worse condition, below 55. Horace Street's not on that list. Horace Street would not be considered in poor condition. Some comparables, Dixon Street near Highview School has an average PCI of 48. PCI around Lourdes is 48. Champlain Street, where the school buses drop off at Champlain, has a PCI of 32. Around Holy Name, the average PCI is 48. And all these streets presently carry bus traffic. So I'm just trying to give some comparables to Horace Street. Horace Street presently does have 2 lifts of asphalt, total depth between 90 and 100 millimeters. JP2G consultants went to site and actually did an investigation just recently to confirm that that is the depth of asphalt that's on site. They provided us with a report stamped by their engineer confirming that the condition of Horace Street will accept bus traffic. In comparison to other streets that I've used in examples, the 90 to 100 millimeters is our standard practice for streets of this nature. Existing underground infrastructure in Horace Street is in good condition, no history of failures. The water main was installed in 1980, has a depth of 2 meters. It's under the south side shoulder. That further protects it from traffic. There's no traffic immediately over top of the water main. Sanitary sewer varies in depth from 1.79 meters deep to 3.88 meters deep, similar to the depths of water and sanitary on Clemo, Herbert, Carmody, all of which carry bus traffic. For further context, a full-size bus with a driver and 72 student passengers weighs approximately 17,000 kilograms. One of our city plow trucks with a full load of winter sand weighs approximately 21,900 kilograms, travels on Horace Street. A garbage truck with a load of trash weighs approximately 22,700 kilograms. They travel on Horace Street. 5-ton delivery truck like the Brick delivering appliances to a home weighs approximately 13,600 kilograms. I could expect that they would also travel on Horace Street. Horace Street's not experienced any infrastructure failures. With these vehicles, nor has the Operations Department received any complaints. School bus has a longer wheelbase than the other vehicles that I've mentioned, therefore it distributes the weight a little bit more, which would lead me to believe there would be less of a concern. And I just wanted to make the point that if we do have a concern with buses and additional traffic on Hoare Street, that it will be detrimental to the existing street and underground infrastructure, then we may need to consider reduced load restrictions on that street, as well as other streets within the city, if that's our thought that that the heavy weight is gonna damage our infrastructure. So I just wanted to make sure that was out there. The next concern that was raised, that the new entrance would remove a safe access for children to walk to school. So operations staff completed a student pedestrian count on Hoare Street over 5 separate days. Total amount of walkers being between 3 and 17 students, the highest being the 17 at one time, or on one day. Stats provided by the school and the bus consortium shows that out of the approximately 1,000 students at the school, 165 students are considered walkers. 22 of those student walkers would potentially utilize Hoare Street, so being in the neighborhood that would use Hoare Street. As there is potential that the community and the neighborhood south of the school could also use Hoare Street to access the Indian River Bridge and head to the downtown core, the city could consider installation of a paved shoulder or sidewalk on Hoare Street, because we've got community members that are also using that. With that said, we need to be cognizant of the fact that other streets around schools may also be lacking sidewalks presently, so I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Next concern raised, the fact that there are currently no sidewalks on Hoare Street, which may pose a safety threat to any students currently using Hoare Street to walk to school. I did talk about the number of walkers and the counts that we have done. But I also wanted to bring a comparison forward. Lourdes School with Champlain Street, Clemo, and Irving has no sidewalks around the school. Highview School has no sidewalks on Dixon Street immediately adjacent to the school. Bell Street, which is home to 2 schools, does not have sidewalks on the school side of the street. We do have a paved shoulder there. And optimizing and expanding the city's sidewalk network is ongoing. So I just wanted to be clear that, yes, I'm identifying areas that don't have sidewalks, but we are working towards increasing our sidewalk network. Another concern, the street is not wide enough for buses to be traveling in both directions. The measured width of Hoare Street is 7 meters. It's the same or greater as measured widths on Everett, Irving, Champlain, Rosewood, and numerous streets within the city. It is a standard residential street. It's built to our standard specifications. And the streets that I mentioned have been confirmed by the joint consortium as having buses traveling on them daily. So we've already got streets similar in width that are being used by buses daily. And Irving Street, Champlain, Rosewood, Fraser are all streets that would see bus traffic, and all streets presently have no sidewalks. So again, just providing some comparables for council's consideration. Another concern, there are only 2 streetlights at that end of Hoare Street and may pose a safety issue for students walking. So it is correct, there's only 2 streetlights for a total length of 160 meters in that block. Separation between the existing streetlights is 73 meters. Separation is comparable to other areas around Lourdes, for an example. And school pedestrian traffic would not be anticipated during the periods when streetlights would be activated. So it's less likely that the streetlights would be a concern or an issue. Next concern, that the entrance from Everett Street to Hoare Street is not wide enough for buses to make a safe turn onto. So the bus consortium tested bus turning, exiting and entering on Hoare Street. They had no issues or safety concerns. And again, for comparables, the intersection is comparable to intersections at Elmira and Everett, Miller at Dorn, Peter and Morris, which are all also used for bus traffic, and I could go on with comparables and examples. Directing buses to Hoare Street will cause traffic backups at the Horace-Everett intersection and the Carmody-Everett intersection simultaneously. To direct buses to Hoare Street from Carmody Street would be transferring the problem from one street to another. That's the concern that was written. The intent is there would be 8 to 14 buses or vans, some of the buses being used are smaller vans, exiting from Hoare Street, heading easterly every day in 2 different waves. They don't all leave the site at the same time. As I mentioned, roughly 10 are going to come up, drop off, move through their motions, and then the next group will go through. So it will be in 2 waves of buses that come out Horace Street, from what I've been told. Buses leaving Horace Street will only occur for less than an hour. I had mentioned the 35 minutes. It's approximately 35 minutes. And with the school and the school board working towards loading and unloading the students quicker with a longer area where the buses are going to be able to load and offload, we could see that 35 minutes actually being reduced. So there would be less time where the buses would be on Horace Street. And the traffic would now be split, and the concerns of Carmody Street would now be reduced by eliminating buses turning left onto Everett Street. We all understand that 270-degree corner is where the majority of the concerns are, and the buses that normally would do that left-hand turn would now be using Horace Street. So it would reduce the issues. It would also reduce some of the congestion when a bus decides to make that turn, that 270-degree turn. They stop traffic in all directions until they actually finish the turn. So I also have some additional comments related to the proposal and traffic management around the school for committee's consideration. The city has been put on notice due to a motor vehicle accident involving a pedestrian at the intersection of Carmody Street and Everett. The notice is that there is a possibility of liability on the part of the city due to the past safety concerns that have been raised regarding the intersection. So alleviating some of the traffic congestion at the 270-degree intersection should help to reduce that liability. The intersection of Carmody, Everett, and Eganville Road has been contributing to cross-city traffic congestion for quite some time, and the alternate entrance to the school may help in dealing with that congestion. So I wanted to make the point, if an alternate egress to the school is not available, we may have to consider modifications to that major intersection. And that may have to take place in the not-too-distant future to deal with the congestion as well as the liability I just mentioned. Being a no-exit street, dead-end street, both Horace Street and Carmody Street and the residents living there would benefit from the alternate access should an emergency or issue block either Carmody Street or Everett Street at their intersections, or Carmody Street at Everett Street intersection or the Horace Street at Everett Street intersection. So if something was to happen at that crazy 270-degree intersection that blocks Carmody Street, all the residents on Carmody Street are trapped. They can't get out. If this second entrance was available, they could proceed onto the school site and come back out Horace Street. As well, emergency vehicles could make their way on Horace Street through the site and attend to a resident on Carmody Street should there be something that's blocking the intersection. The school board in its proposal for the second entrance is considering a pedestrian path from Horace Street to Carmody Street, which could be used for the community to access the Indian River footbridge. As I mentioned, we do have community members that are using that area and making their way across the footbridge and into the downtown core to the waterfront and destinations north in the city. Concerns have been raised regarding the snowbanks narrowing the dead end of Horace Street. So Horace Street is plowed the same as other residential streets with full winging back as normal. I confirmed that today with the supervisor, the sub-foreman, and they also talked to the operators that do that route. Everything is done just as any other residential street. If Horace Street was a second entrance to the school, the street would be added to the list of periodic bank cutting during the winter, the same as we do on Everett Street and Carmody Street. If we have a heavy winter of snow, we go to various different locations and do bank cutting. We focus on primaries, secondaries, the heavy routes, the school routes, those type of areas we focus on first. So Horace Street would actually get bumped up on the bank cutting list. To compare this proposal for school traffic to other locations within the city, we can look at Lourdes School at Irving Street. It is a residential neighborhood, same as Horace. There's no sidewalks. Bus loading and unloading is on Champlain Street with a very short area for maybe 1 to 2 buses at a time. And all the other buses are queuing on Clemo Avenue. The roadway widths are comparable to Horace Street. Cathedral School on Isabella Street I used as another example. Bus loading and unloading is on Moffett Street in a very short area for maybe 2 to 3 buses at a time. There is limited queuing space, and the roadway widths are comparable to Horace Street. So alternatives considered, we could do nothing, have staff and students at the school confined to the property with only one entrance and exit. Additionally, without a second egress, there's no connection of Horace Street to Carmody Street. The residents on those streets could use as a way of getting out, or the connection could be used for emergency services to make it to the other street. Another alternative to deal with the traffic congestion in the area, this isn't just a school entrance issue, this is also dealing with the heavy congestion in that intersection of Carmody, Everett, and Eganville Road. So another alternative to deal with that traffic congestion is to look at potential improvements to the Carmody Street, Everett Street, Eganville Road intersection. That may include the possibility of a roundabout. It's confined space, it may be doable, or a multi-leg signalized intersection at a significant cost to our ratepayers. The strategic plan input or impact, as part of the city's strategic plan, there is an underlying vision and principle to develop and maintain partnerships with organizations. And I have included attachments with my report. One is a letter of support from the fire department. The other is a letter of support from the OPP station as well. We do have the preliminary drawings with us here in council chambers tonight if there's any questions, and we can use it as a reference. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Already up in the queue. I got Councillor Purcell, followed by Councillor Keel, then I'll open up to others.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director. We really appreciate the effort that you went to address the concerns associated with, or potential concerns that were associated with this second entrance, so I appreciate that. That being said, I move that we approve the concept and principle of the second entrance to Bishop Smith Catholic High School at the north end of Horace Street, and that we deem the surplus land, we deem the 0.85 acres as surplus, non-viable land, and that we look for cost recovery from the school board in regards to the purchase of the property.
Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Keel. Now we'll open up to further questions. Councillor Keel, you're up next.
First, Director, I just want to say to you, and I know we have some board members behind you, not to denigrate any other files, but I think this file has been handled perfectly. There has been public notice, there has been public consultation. It has come before council as a concept, you've answered all the questions. I know lately we have received some criticism on how we've handled some, at least one land sale and whatnot. I think this has been done by the book, it's been done better than the book. And I can't thank you and our board friends enough for how this has been handled. I honestly don't know that I've ever felt so educated on a particular decision as I have here, and perhaps it's because the school was involved. We were well educated on it. But I do want to say, joking aside, that I think this is the gold standard for how I hope the city does deal with these kinds of matters. I have two questions and then further comments. Number one, what is the anticipated evening traffic? Because I know that hasn't been mentioned at all, but the night of the public meeting, I noticed there was clearly some men's basketball going on in the gym. So just to be clear, and again, public disclosure, I suspect there is going to be other traffic at night and on weekends. But how are we describing that since we haven't mentioned it at all? Is it because it's so minimal that that's not why we haven't mentioned it? Or?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would anticipate it's not going to be a great amount of traffic. There are going to be some special events held at the school. I would anticipate that would be the case. There are some evening activities that happen at the school. Carmody Street is still considered the main entrance. The school board have discussed with me that they're going to promote Carmody Street as the main entrance. I would expect Horace Street, any additional traffic in the evenings would be extremely minimal. As well, as I had mentioned in the report, the school board is considering traffic management or traffic deterrence on this private entrance. And if anybody has ever tried to cut through a mall property somewhere to get when you're driving over speed bumps and around concrete barriers and so forth, it doesn't make it worthwhile to use that as cut through. So I would anticipate with those measures in place, the increase in traffic on Horace Street in the evening would be minimal.
Not holding you to any numbers, what would be your generalized estimate of putting in either a sidewalk or a paved shoulder on Horace Street?
Through you, Mr. Chair, off the top of my head, I'm going to say paved shoulder is probably about, I'm just going to throw a number of maybe 7,000. A sidewalk, concrete sidewalk would probably be in the neighborhood of about $20,000 to $25,000. It would have to be, just so that we're clear, a concrete sidewalk, because there is open ditch drainage on that street, which we are well aware needs to be addressed. The drainage is poor, and it's on our list for additional work. Actually, it went onto the list last fall. We had done some at the end on the east side. We need to address further the drainage there. But with the open ditch drainage and the culverts, the sidewalk would have to be at property line. Similar to some of the newer subdivisions that we're seeing, it's about 250 millimeters off of the property line. If you understand Horace Street at that end, some of the homes are fairly close to the property line. So it could cause some grief with a concrete sidewalk, could cause some grief for parking in the driveways and basically stepping off your porch immediately onto a public sidewalk. And I'm not sure how the residents would feel about that, but in answer to your question, about $7,000 for a asphalt paved shoulder, and about $20,000 to $25,000 for a concrete sidewalk.
Is the asphalt paved shoulder doable? Yeah, just in the sense that you focused more on the sidewalk in your answer.
Most definitely doable.
Okay.
And it provides a hard surface for pedestrians to walk on. We have pedestrian hard surface with a paved boulevard, or sorry, a paved shoulder on Bell Street for a good stretch on Bell Street, used by both schools as well as the seniors resident that's on Bell Street. We have the same thing we installed on Everett Street to help with the pedestrian traffic on Everett Street. We did the same thing on Bennett. So we do have it in other locations. It is a definitely a viable option. It's a little tougher to do when that's all you're installing, and you're not doing the rest of the road, but it's definitely doable.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to make well, you can't make a unrelated motion inside of another motion. But I guess what I would say to you is that's something that I think I would personally like to see. I guess we'll wait for other members to chime in, but I think that would address what I will call a somewhat legitimate concern from the residents. In terms of what we heard, like I said, your report was great. I'm assuming almost all of us have probably been hearing from residents on Horace Street, and I'm certainly not. I respect all the residents of the city, but I really feel in this particular groundswell opposing this, I think some of the residents might have went a little wrong with their way of handling it. It's almost like they threw everything at the ceiling, hoping something would stick to it. Obviously, you've addressed the engineering concerns. There are none. That's the reality. Those were raised, and I know some of us on council wanted to know the answer to those questions, and as it turned out, there just aren't any. And I would suggest to residents in the future that if you're going to make an argument about something, maybe be more focused on your argument, because when I had the opportunity in Walmart last week to speak with a resident of Horace Street, or I guess it was a couple weeks ago now, I'll be honest with you, it boiled down to the fact that they just didn't want more traffic on their street. That's fine. If that's your argument, then make that argument. But the other 5 minutes we spent just batting down the engineering and the road width and It doesn't help your argument when you throw out things that you don't know what you're talking about, and it turns out the experts say that you're frankly entirely incorrect. So maybe that's me just giving some debate advice to our residents. But I think when you boil it down to the actual issues, the safety concern is a real safety concern. And we don't need to speak hypothetically. We know that there was an incident at the Carmody Everett street corner where there was an actual accident. We know there was the incident recently wherein the fire department couldn't gain access to Bishop Smith because the Carmody Street entrance was backed up. Those are real. Those aren't hypotheticals. Those are real things that have happened. And you know, I assume that the school doesn't take lightly spending this kind of money because they're sitting there thinking that perhaps in the future there might possibly be a problem. So at the end of the day, I will say that I started this with a lot of concern from the Horace Street residents, and I heard their concerns. And the decision that I'm making to support this tonight is based on the fact that all of their concerns, pretty much one by one, have been looked at. The experts have spoken to them. The experts have dismissed some of them. And while I appreciate that the one thing that they are correct about is that there's going to be more traffic on Horace Street, I, as a public official, have to weigh that against the other positives and negatives. And when you do that on this particular issue, I think it becomes a fairly easy decision. But the students walking up and down that road, I did drive there. I did sit at the bottom of the hill and look at it. And I don't know that my concern is about Horace Street specifically, but I also, sitting there, felt like I would feel safer if we were giving more room for the students to come and go, which is my question about the paved shoulder or sidewalk. So I think that one, again, bears some concern that I think we could address for them. Their other concerns have been addressed by engineers and professionals, and that's why I will be supporting this motion tonight to support the proposal.
I have Councillor Frenier, then Councillor Giacomo.
Thank you. Through the chair, basically my comments are very similar to Councillor Keel's. At the onset of this, I wanted answers to all those questions, and I want to thank Mr. Lewis for providing them. You know, the fact about it being a dead end, Carmody, like there are other dead ends in the city that we could compare it to. I live on a dead end, so I mean, I could be cut off too. But when I ask myself how many people would be affected, I mean, when you're cutting off access to a high school, that's a whole different thing. So I guess that's the swaying issue with me. And I had a discussion today with someone on the board, and I listened, and we had a little debate for a while, and he's smiling at me now, so that's okay. But that's what swayed me, was the fact that we do use it as an emergency post. And so, you know, like I said, I mean, nobody wants more traffic on the street, but if we could try to mitigate it, that's what I'm going to address right now, is the things that did come up in the report that I would like to see done. And that was the suggestion that the board would try to implement other traffic management deterrents. And I'm wondering if they're going to be trying to deter the parents from going that way, or teachers for, you know, for the sake. Could there not be, I know there's in the city, in Ottawa, they have like bus route only signs. I don't know that that could be posted at the entrance to the school driveway, you know, bus route only. I mean, that might not be a bad idea either. I know you had other deterrents like bumps and things, but I mean, if I'm in Ottawa and I see a bus route sign, I'm certainly not going to take the bus route. So that might also assist in that problem. And I'm just looking at my notes. Yeah, like, I think that intersection, the school's been there for over 52 years, 55 years, I'm not sure of the exact date. And it's always been congested, but I would say it's more congested now with more parents dropping off kids than it used to be. More children used to walk, or more kids were picked up at their door. And we all know there's been cutbacks and changes with transportation. So more parents are driving their kids now than ever. And whether that's because the kid doesn't want to walk or they don't have a bus route that suits them, I'm not sure, but I do identify with that. But I would really like to see them try to just keep that Horace for buses only. And I will support this, and, yeah.
Councillor Jackno?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe in the project. I believe that it's viable based on the reports from the fire department, the police, et cetera. Thank you, Mr. Lewis and your staff for doing an exemplary job. I believe there may be some consideration to the sale price of the surplus land, and I think that would be based on perhaps what is going to be given back to us in return, you know, the improvement of infrastructure, et cetera. The board is taking on a large expenditure and, you know, helping improve that part of the end of Horse Street, et cetera. And who knows where that'll go from there. I also have to comment on the tremendous contributions that have been made by the students of that particular school. You know, they've been involved in fundraisers for Coldest Night of the Year. They've worked in the community cleanup. I had the opportunity some years ago as a member of council to be invited to go and speak to a hardcore group of students, about 12 of them at Bishop Smith. And they really didn't want to hear from me as a politician, but I caught their attention by telling them all if they didn't put down their cell phones, I was going to go down there and take them from them, having come from the West End. I think they understood that. And they listened. They listened. And I told them that my time was valuable, and I didn't come there just to have them playing their cell phones while I was talking to the wall. And at the end of the environment, at the end of the little session, one little girl out of 12 came to me and she said, "You know, sir, I'm going to change. I'm going to change the way I've been thinking." So to me, if you have, you know, if you impact one young person that way, who knows where that goes? And I think that's a very valuable thing. That school and the board, you know, their motto is schools to believe in. I truly believe this is a school to believe in, and that what is going to happen here will be benefit to all. And I'll be voting in favor. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for the detailed report. And I spoke to you on the phone the other day, had some questions. You've already said that drainage will be addressed. And the paved shoulder is something that I would like to see put in. This is a huge liability risk for the city. And it's a safety, health and safety, as you mentioned. A couple of years ago, I went to a workshop on joint and several liability at one of the municipal conferences, and it's called the 1% rule, and it still exists today. Whoever has the deepest pockets, mostly municipalities, they could be ruled, even though it's not their fault, they can be thrown into the pit, and the judge can award the majority expense to the municipality. So liability is a huge issue for the community, as we all know, and the safety. And I spoke with residents of Orange Street different times, and one comment was, you know, the road should be fixed before the buses go in. But you've addressed those issues, and we would love to have all the bus routes fixed before the buses go on, but we don't have the funds. So we have to have a lineup, in every budget we put money into certain roads. But I'll be supporting this because of the improvement to the traffic flow and the huge liability risk and the safety, and it's something that's needed for the school and the community. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So without belaboring this, I just wanted to ensure that everyone recognized that, as with a number of us, we went to an open house with an open mind to listen to the different concerns and view firsthand what the presentation was from the board, so that the information came to us from that vantage point. Listening to the board presentation here at council, as well as reviewing the petition to see what the concerns were. And yes, as with everyone else, appreciate a thorough report, because it's with thorough information from staff, you can make an informed decision, as opposed to trying to make a decision with only part of the equation. As I'm sure that Councillor Keel and Councillor Purcell will recall that we talked to a number of different residents after the open house, touched on, traffic calming, indicated what the city's position normally is on speed bumps and other things on our city streets, but being on the school side would be a different part of the equation. And it was an eye-opener. Like, I had 3 kids that went to that school over a course of 6 years, but I wasn't aware of the situation with the fire department having a hard time getting to the school and other issues that have obviously happened since my kids went to school there. Learning, so I've lost touch obviously with Bishop Smith to learn that now it's grade 7 students and up, and that the enrollment, despite what some of the misinformation I originally received, was that enrollment is up, it's not down, and so as a result, there's even more children that are there. So I do appreciate the report. I do listen to everything that's presented, and I believe that all of us do listen to everything that's presented to us. And if nothing else, it, to me, should say to the community at large is that, as Councillor Keel is trying to say, if you put together a well-reasoned argument or well-reasoned concerns, then we take that information and we're able to act upon it, whether it's talking to the director of operations or in other cases, director of planning or whoever, to say these are some of the concerns and what can we do in this particular, and we get them every day, as council members know, we get calls every day, and it's trying to action what we can with the funds that were allotted through taxation or from the other levels of government. But certainly, I do understand, I do appreciate what's going on. The biggest part for me, I would say, is in terms of the Police Services Board, looking at what the board is indicating in terms of if there was a situation, and as I told one school individual that's saying it lightly, I could say it much more harshly, and I'm not going to, but if there was a situation of danger at that particular school and there's only one way in, one way out, that spells disaster. And we only need to look as far as Ottawa in terms of the news and seeing some of the things that go on, unfortunately, at some of the schools and other locations, Byward Market and so forth. And so we do not need that happening at the school and creating a situation of danger ourselves as a municipality by not cooperating. And as I think Director Lewis is being kind in terms of not saying what it would cost if the city wanted to tackle this particular issue on municipal soil. And so if the school wants to spend upwards of $1 million to rectify the situation and what they're asking for is this, then I'm in. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Frenier?
Just a brief, I forgot one more point on my paper. I really like the idea of the pedestrian path going from Horace to Carmody to access the Indian River. I know I cut through there all the time to go downtown, and it's a beautiful walk. So I would love that if the asphalt path on Horace led into that. It's just the same. So, thank you.
Okay. So, any final questions, comments? Seeing none, we do have a motion and a seconder. So I'll call to question those in favor. Approved. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Keel, Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Evening, everyone. I'd like to call this council meeting to order for April 15th. Before we begin, I would ask everyone to please take a moment and stand for an opening prayer reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in relation to the matters on the council agenda this evening?
Yes, Your Worship. I will be declaring a conflict of interest on item 9A, rezoning of 730 Cecilia Street, as I had met previously in my lawyer capacity with the applicant.
Thank you. Seeing no other ones, we'll move forward with minutes. First we have is the regular meeting of council of April 1st. Moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Purcell to approve those minutes. Those in favor? And it is carried. We have adoption of minutes from various committees. This evening we have one being the Operations Committee, March 18th, 2025. Moved by Councillor Frenier, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? And that is carried. And no minutes from local boards to receive this evening. No delegations or presentations this evening, hence no business arising from it. No staff reports. Bringing us forward to proclamations. This evening we have two of them. The first is that I do hereby declare April 22nd through to the 27th as Earth Week in the city of Pembroke. And whereas Earth Day is celebrated annually on April 22nd to encourage communities and individuals to address environmental challenges and impacts of climate change. And whereas the need for advocating for sustainable future and safeguarding our natural environment is more critical than ever. And whereas the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change stresses the increasing urgency for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and for developing strategies for adapting to our altered climate. And whereas the City of Pembroke is committed to working with all departments to adopt best practices towards a greener future. And whereas all citizens, businesses, institutions, and organizations are encouraged to work together toward the protection and enhancement of our natural environment through education, partnerships, and action on Earth Day and every day. April 22nd being Earth Day, it's an opportunity to reflect on environmental issues, but more importantly, to get involved. The City of Pembroke is committed to change for the better. We need only look at the countless changes that we have instituted as a city. Previously, our commitment through the Beautification and Climate Action Advisory Committee. We have now completed milestone 2 regarding the Climate Action Plan and are currently working to achieve the 3rd phase. Further, I'm personally asking all residents to participate in the Pembroke Community Cleanup and pick up their kits, and I'll leave the rest to the Deputy Mayor as our representative on that committee. So therefore, be it resolved that I, Ron Gerva, Mayor of the City of Pembroke, proclaim April 22nd through to the 27th as Earth Week in the City of Pembroke. The second proclamation for this evening is that I do hereby declare May 4th through to the 10th as Emergency Preparedness Week in the City of Pembroke. Whereas the City of Pembroke recognizes the importance of emergency management in Ontario, and whereas the goal of Emergency Preparedness Week is to raise community awareness and the need to prepare for the possibility of an emergency, and whereas the safety of our community is the responsibility of each and every one of us as we prepare now and learn how to secure a strong and healthy tomorrow. Emergency Preparedness Week being May 4th through the 10th, and as indicated in the proclamation, the onus is on each and every one of us to be prepared. I'd ask all residents to please consider purchasing an emergency kit, water, and other required items to make sure that you yourself are prepared. It's not enough to rely upon various levels of government, but rather to be prepared ourselves. So now, therefore, I, Ron Gerva, Mayor of the City of Pembroke, do hereby proclaim the week of May 4th through to the 10th to be Emergency Preparedness Week in the City of Pembroke and encourage all citizens and businesses to prepare and know your risk. This will help our community to become more aware of the importance of planning ahead and preparing for emergency situations. Moving forward with bylaws, first this evening we have 2025 rezoning of 730 Cecilia Street. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by the Deputy Mayor that bylaw 2025-39 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation, and just awaiting your signature.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Giacono, and I forgot to mention that Councillor Keel has left the council table. So moved by Councillor Giacono and seconded by the Deputy Mayor that bylaw 2025-39, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-5 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Giacono, did you wish to speak to it?
Yes, Your Worship, I think it's very important that there should be some clarification as to this particular bylaw amendment. At a public meeting, a number of residents had come forward to express their disdain about the loss of open space / parkland. I guess you can't really call it parkland, it's called open space. They've been using it for a number of years, you know, as perhaps a small recreational area in their neighborhood, which is not too far away from Harvey Forest Park. But the city, earlier in the last year or two, had come up with, through the suggestion of some new councillors, that we look at our surplus lands and what's available, and to use the resources at hand to either sell some of these properties, raise taxation, et cetera, so that we can try and limit, you know, our budget increases. So this is why this particular piece of property came into being, and it was put out as surplus, and there was an individual came forward, wanted to purchase it so that they could put up a sixplex. Now, what has happened here is there will be a provision of some, you know, fairly nice, decent housing in an area that's quite a nice neighborhood as well, and that the individuals will, that will be here will be, you know, probably professional people. Doctors are looking for places to stay. You know, they're having a difficulty, and nurses or people are traveling into the community, in and out. Some people don't want to be there for the whole month. They may only want to be there for a week or two when they're practicing at the hospital. I met an individual from Mount St. Marie who was doing some work here, and he said his issue was finding a place that he could rely on that was decent. He didn't mind paying the price. So initially what will happen, Your Worship, I'm not going to rant on too long, is that there'll be some decent housing, you know, it'll fit in with the neighborhood. The residents of the area who objected still have Harvey Fraser Park, where they can recreate, where they can go for a walk with their dog. It's not like it's 3 miles away. It's still within the neighborhood. And it'll be some added tax revenue that the city is looking for. So there were 22 pieces of property that were looked at as surplus. And of those 22 pieces, some were exempt. We decided, no, we're not going to do that. For example, we're not going to have Riverside Park go into surplus because it supplies a very viable need for the residents of the community. So these are small little cut up pieces that were really, you know, the neighbors in the neighborhood and attachment to it, I understand that. If I were living in that particular neighborhood and this came forward, I would probably feel that way too. There was also some issues that the neighbors said they weren't informed properly. You know, many places don't have newspapers. Everything is done electronically. Some of the neighbors said, well, I'm not electronically viable. I'm not good at electronics. It's a changing world, so we all have to adapt. It is my hope that, you know, we cannot go on every door in the city of Pembroke when there's a piece of property like this that may be purchased. We can't go physically and knock on 6,954 doors to see if everybody's up for it. So we have to use the resources at hand and the, you know, the availability of communication that we have, you know, to do our best. And I felt, Your Worship, with all undue criticism, you know, from some of the neighbors, that we have done what the requirement was. There is still an option, if they're not happy, they can go to the land tribunal and make an objection. But in my estimation, as a former member of council and sitting on the planning authority and the planning board, I truly believe that their application for, to be heard will be rejected, because we as a municipality are following what has been put forward to us by the province, and we're not doing anything that is irregular. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jacquino. I have the Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Originally, I had a tough time with this one, and I felt, when we went to vote to give up a parkland for surplus land, I questioned it. But we kept the parkette on the corner of Cecilia and Alfred Street. As Councillor Frenier had pointed out, it's a walking path to downtown. We have Harvey Fraser Park across the street. And as Councillor Jacquino mentioned at the last meeting, we had a really darn time at budget looking for funds. And it was really tough, and it's one of the things on council that, it's a tough decision, and you're not going to please everybody. And the other day I was driving up Fraser Street, and lo and behold, there's a 34-foot building on the left-hand side. The back of it's 34 feet high. The front of it's about 25 feet high. It's a double duplex garage building. It's right on the corner of Estelle Street, I believe that's the street. So here's a building like that that's in with lower residential bungalows. As explained by Colleen Sorio, the Director of Planning, to me, the reason this came to council was because it was open space. Had it not been a parkette, had it been just surplus land, it would have got automatically approved because it meets all the requirements. In all honesty, I prefer a smaller building, a smaller low profile for the neighbors. But if we turn this down, we're sending a message that we're finicky on development. We don't want to send that message to developers because there is a housing shortage in Pembroke. The other side of the coin is that we have staff have recommended this. If council turns it down, it goes to the Land Tribunal, and the Land Tribunal, as Councillor Jacquino has pointed out, will approve it according to the provincial policy statement. And that will cost extra money and lawyers for the city, and it will get approved anyhow, more than likely. I'd bet money on it. So I prefer a smaller footprint, but I'm going to vote in favor of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Plummer?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I looked at the project, and I looked at what they're proposing, and I will disagree with Councillor Jacquino. I don't believe it's a good fit for the neighborhood. I think we understand that I don't disagree that we need to sell land, we need to increase development and have housing, but if you look what they're proposing and what the size of the property is, and just because the Planning Act says we should do it, doesn't mean necessarily we ought to do it. We had a presentation here from all the residents, and besides the developer, and no offense to developer because I am one, you can choose projects that meet the neighborhood. So for this project, I see it's just going to be just too large. It's going to cause issues with the neighbors. We want to basically welcome developers. We want to work with residents. Certainly, I think that there could have been a better design place for it, and you can still approve to sell the land, but also you can approve to do something that fits with the neighborhood and not be an eyesore. And unfortunately, I just can't, in good heart, vote for this.
Councillor Plummer, anyone else wish to speak to this one? Councillor Purcell and then Councillor Frenier.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it was quite concerning whenever we saw the proposal in terms of this development. I'm actually located in that subdivision, so it does impact the space that's available for my home and the residents to enjoy. That being said, we need to look at housing shortage. We need to really kind of focus in terms of utilizing the space and infilling appropriately. I know that there was concerns brought forward in regards to the height of development at 35 feet. I understand those concerns, but looking around various different areas around town, we still see those types of developments, that are somewhat intrusive, I guess, in one sense, if you consider that intrusive. I have one of those properties where, the hospital piers in my backyard. So, I mean, are we going to defer some of these development options because we have individuals that, not in my backyard, or, it doesn't fit for whatever reason? I think the main concern there was the height and also taking away the green space. If we look at the space that's available in that area, we do have Harvey Fraser Park, and down the road, Kinsman Park, just a short walk. That being said, I think it's a good opportunity to, look at those dollars. I mean, we're probably going to bring in about $20,000 in terms of taxation for that property, and also the sale of the property. So, I mean, that contributes to I think a 0.7% rate increase for our residents in regards to taxation. So, I mean, here we are. We had an 8.9%, increase in terms of the taxes. We need to look at opportunities to improve, improve the dollars that we're bringing in terms of taxation. And I think this is a good opportunity to do that. I disagree with one of the councillors that said it's an eyesore. I see the same development on Town Line. Very responsible, looks like they're a very responsible developer. Nice looking building. I think it'll be a good addition to that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Frenier. I wish to speak to it. Does council have an issue if I speak to it from here, or do you wish me to change spots with the deputy? So members of council, I begin with saying that certainly considered all the comments made at the public meeting seriously, as we all do. Like some of you, not that we don't attend enough meetings, we watch YouTube to take in other meetings so that we better understand what has transpired on a particular subject, because we don't all sit on recreation or planning or what have you. And so like a number of you, I also did that to try and get a handle as to what took place at the Planning Advisory Committee. Similar to a comment that was made earlier in terms of providing kudos to the Director Lewis, is to the the planner, Mr. Hutton, in terms of the report that was provided to the Planning Advisory and Adjustment Committee, because it provides the basis of an informed decision as to where our minds should be when we are trying to make the appropriate decision, in addition to listening to oral submissions from members of the public, as well as listening to oral comments from in this case, the planner. Sometimes it's the director. As has been said to me on a number of occasions, the province desires to have mixed uses in close proximity to each other. So whether I agree with that or not, that's what the province wants, and we are a creature of statute and follow what the province wants. Further, the province desires intensification. It wants additional housing, and if you've been watching the information that's coming out of the provincial government, they're not hitting their target, and they're not in line to hit their target in the 10-year time frame, and they're pushing and trying to find different ways of meeting this intensification, this move to have additional housing. I know that in reading the report, and even outside of the report, similar to what it sounds like some members of council have been doing, is contacting directors and so forth, is I understand that we in the city of Pembroke have over 140 acres of parkland in the city of Pembroke. I know that we have in excess of 20 parks already in the city of Pembroke. And it's not to take away, as some councillors are saying, taking away from what's in certain individuals' neighborhoods, but it's a realization, and I think Councillor Purcell is hitting it on the head, is there's the housing, but there's also the crunch that we're having in reference to funding this municipality. And we know that we get our funding from grants, but largely it's from taxation. And until we receive additional funds from other levels of government, this is the way that we have to fund this particular municipality, as all other municipalities. I, similar to what the Deputy Mayor said, looked at other areas in our community, and I see other buildings that in a smaller homed residential neighborhood is other buildings, whether it be Angus Camel on Melton, and you could rhyme off a whole number of them where housing has been constructed in that certain area. It's intensification and it's additional housing for that area. I noticed that the staff report also comments that down Cecilia Street, there is an apartment building there. There's a number of what I think some people call wartime homes, small homes, if you will, and there's an apartment building there. And I contacted the owner of that building because I don't know how many units is in it, and turns out there's 11 in that unit, in that particular building. And it's snuggled in with a lot of smaller homes, not to minimize what their homes are, but that's the neighborhood that it finds itself. I know that some individuals are taking issue with the sale of land, but as indicated in the report, that decision we made as a council back in January of 2024. So the decision has come and gone in respect to, are we selling the property? It's whether or not this is proper planning. And that's what it comes down to, as a number of members of council are saying in different ways, but that's what it comes down to, is this decision proper planning in the circumstances? And when I look at the report and I view all these different things, and I see that time and again, Mr. Hutton is saying it's not exceeding the height, it's not exceeding a variety of different things, and so yes, it meets proper planning principles. So in all of those circumstances, when I review all of that, while I recognize that certain individuals are concerned, in the grand scheme of things, is it proper planning? Yes. I recognize some people also don't like increased traffic on certain streets. In fact, we just finished dealing with that in terms of Horace Street. But I'm also aware of, and all of council is aware of, there's approximately 2,500 residential homes that could be built if the developers were to proceed. And one of those developments is in close proximity to this particular location. And so if anything is going to create extra traffic, I suspect it's going to be this additional development. And I can go on by saying that I wholeheartedly welcome that development and all of the developments in the city of Pembroke, because it is growing the tax base that's actually going to assist the city of Pembroke. So thank you for listening to me make those particular comments. I ask whether or not there's anyone else that wishes to make a final comment before I call the question. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship. I truly respect what Councillor Plummer's saying. You know, when we live in a small community, we try and keep the, how would I put it? You look at your historic downtown, you look at neighborhoods. For example, a couple of months ago, or maybe a year ago, Catherine Street South, somebody wanted to build a couple of duplexes in a residential area. And people said, hey, you can't do that. I had a couple of phone calls. This is all residential. But I think what has happened is due to intensification and due to adjustments in the Planning Act, the province has sort of, in a way, removed some of our power to restrict those types of developments wholly, and saying, no, you will build faster, you will build quicker, because we anticipate a new higher immigration level within the country will grow, we need places to live, and we need affordable housing. So that's what we're hearing. So it's not, I think, that we're trying to make the improper decision. We're faced with the rules and regulations that have been handed to us. It's like a judge and a jury. You have to come up with a decision. But when your superior says to you, we're going to create more housing, we're going to give you a little less power. They tell you they're giving you more power, but they really aren't. They're saying, here's what we want to happen, now you handle it. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to handle it to the best we can. So, it could have been a 24-foot story building, but due to our Planning Act, that doesn't allow that. And you look at different cities. You look in Ottawa, where you had you go down Elgin Street and you see this house and you see a high-rise beside it. The individuals have just not sold out. But, where's the Planning Act there when you've got, a small residential home surrounded by these high-rises, doesn't get any sun during the day? Where's the justice to that? So I think we're doing the best that we can. I don't think we're being outrageous by the decision. That's my personal feeling, and I have to vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Failing which, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Against? It's carried. The next item, so Councillor Keel is returning to the table, is 2025-40. It's the rezoning of 570 Elmira Street, and it's Councillor Keel.
Your worship, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2025-40, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keel and seconded by Councillor Plummer that bylaw 2025-40, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Keel.
So, your worship, this one is on Elmira Street, and this sets up, I forget how many units, but I think over a dozen units, 14 units. Councillor Plummer's memory is saying in various dwelling units. I know we just had a discussion about having more units in Pembroke. I think this will be a great addition, not just to that neighborhood, but to the city. It's sort of tucked away as a corner lot off of Elmira Street, and I certainly myself will be supporting this one, your worship.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Jacquinot.
Getting back to the rolling wheel, will there be a height restriction on these particular buildings?
Thank you. Are you answering it, Councillor Plummer, or are you?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Okay. Okay.
I'm just going to recall back to the presentation that was presented to us from our council meeting. These are row housing units. They're one story with a basement. There's an 8-plex and then a 6-plex to be constructed on this design, which I will be voting in favor because I believe it fits the neighborhood and the design that again doesn't goes along with the existing neighborhood.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the bylaw? No. Call the question. Those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next one is bylaw 2025-41, which is an agreement for a contract extension to Bear Invest Limited for Brundage Farm subdivision. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Laferniere, that bylaw 2025-41, a bylaw to authorize the mayor and chief administrative officer to enter into an agreement with Bear Invest Limited to be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Thank you.
So moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 2025-41, a bylaw to authorize the mayor and CAO to enter into an agreement with Bear Invest Limited be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Mayor. It's simply just a subdivision extension for additional 3 years. The city has actually had a previous agreement with Burcom Developments, and they've actually changed name to Bear Invest. So.
You bet, Councillor Keel.
Just to clarify, if people couldn't hear what we were doing, I believe the direction was for a 1-year extension. I think the request was for another 3-year extension, and I believe council said that we were only going to authorize a 1-year extension, and that's actually what I wanted to speak to. As his worship sort of alluded to two issues ago while I was sitting in the audience, there's some subdivisions in the city that have been approved that we would love to see built, and quite frankly, in some cases for at least 2 to 3 decades, have seen no movement whatsoever. I personally am very keen to kick in the rear end some of these developers to get moving, to get building. And I don't know why I can't forget this number, but Councillor Purcell brought up at budget that our natural increase year over year was only $170,000 in terms of growth, which as far as I can tell is a fairly sad number, to be honest. Certainly if more new houses were built at, I think some of the new houses I think are $8,000 to $10,000 in taxes. So certainly if we saw more development, we could see more tax revenue, which would take that off the backs of the existing taxpayers. So Your Worship, I just wanted to make the comment that I'm keen that this is only a 1-year extension for the reason that I'm hoping that it will show this developer and other developers that we're not fooling around, that we want to see some buildings going on in these subdivisions. So for that reason, I will support the 1-year extension. Your Worship, to be clear to anybody watching, there has been movement on this. The developer has been taking some steps along the way. But I think 1 year will continue to hold their feet to the fire, and so I hope, Your Worship, that it is a 1-year extension.
Correct. So for members of council, the first paragraph is talking about that the initial was a period of 3 years. Paragraph 2 says that the city and Bear Invest have agreed to amend the terms of the agreement to allow for a further 1 year to enter into a residential subdivision agreement. So it is for 1 year. And if council will indulge me in waiving the rereading of the motion, is there any other comments to be made? Failing which, I call the question, and those in favor. And that is carried unanimously. That brings us to the last bylaw for this evening. Councillor Plummer, bylaw 2025-42, Highway 148 reconstruction.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Jacquino, the bylaw 2025-42, a bylaw to authorize the entering into agreement of the rehabilitation of the portion of the Kings Highway 148, Angus Campbell Drive to Greenwood Road between the Minister of Transportation and the Province of Ontario and the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed. And further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Plummer and seconded by Councillor Jacquino, the bylaw 2025-42, a bylaw to authorize the entering into of an agreement for the rehabilitation of a portion of the Kings Highway 148, Angus Campbell Drive to Greenwood between the Ministry of Transportation for the Province of Ontario and the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Plummer.
No, this is, I hope the 148 goes this year. It's a long time coming. We've seen ORPC doing new polls. We've seen a lot of surveying going on out there, so I'm hoping that this is the last bit and we can actually see some construction happening soon, because we'd all like that 148 to be improved to our city limits. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. There are no motions this evening. There's no correspondence. Just the 2 spots. Brings us to Mayor's report. So good evening, everyone. Wish to bring forward my Mayor's report at this time in respect to invitations, appearances, and other matters. On April 4th, I had the pleasure of meeting with Costatino Ricardo to wish him a warm 90th birthday. He's a resident here in the city of Pembroke. It's always a pleasure to meet with various residents of the beautiful city of Pembroke, especially for such a great occasion. He was a mason in his time and had assisted in the construction of Giant Tiger as well as a number of other buildings that he educated me on. Later that day, I attended an open house of Battlefield located at 11958 Round Lake Road in Pembroke. Congratulations on your new home, and please support local businesses and buying Canadian where possible. On April 5th, I had the pleasure of assisting with the pancake breakfast organized and ran by our Pembroke Firefighters Association members and the board of the Pembroke Handy Bus. The breakfast was organized as a fundraiser for the Pembroke Handy Bus, and thank you so much to the association and the firefighters for another great outreach, and thank you to the different council members that attended that function. April 12th, I was invited to attend a Legion ceremony at the Memorial Cenotaph Park, joined by President Halliday, who was here earlier this evening, and countless members from all over as they attended for what was the annual conference here in Pembroke. Special thank you to our Legion for the invitation and to City Park staff for the great work that they did to ensure that the park was so well groomed for the occasion and for attending at that particular day to set up, tear down the needed infrastructure for that event. And certainly I could not say enough about the great partnership between the city and the Legion. Later that day, I had the pleasure of attending at the County of Renfrew Regional Science Fair. It's always great to see so many young faces and what they have learned through their various projects, certainly a number of different projects that I would have never imagined to do when I was their age. April 13th, I had the pleasure of attending back at Legion Branch 72 as they were doing the business portion of their Legion conference. Welcome representation from all over the place to our beautiful city of Pembroke, encouraging them that on their time off from the conference to attend at various locations in the city of Pembroke, take in what we have to offer, including the various businesses here. Today, I had the pleasure of attending together with Mayor Bennett and members of his council at the opening of a restaurant called Topper's Pizza, located at 1053 Pembroke Street East. I certainly want to thank them for the invitation and including us as part of the grand opening and welcome their business to the community at large. And I trust that they'll have many years of success in our community. On a different note, recent county committee meeting, so an item to bring forward so that our committee members, council members are aware of what's taking place. So I'm sure that you've all heard of this notion of $10 a day daycare. So I'm going to give it to this presentation to the CAO so that any member of council that wants to read it in detail, because I'm not going to read it to you in detail, but there is $10 a day daycare, certainly not enough positions in any place in the throughout the county. What was interesting is the original allocation was 427 spaces here in Renfrew County. Through various delegations with the province, there's now an additional 261 spaces, bringing this allocation up to 688. And with that comes funding, which is what we're always looking for from the other levels of government, is put your money where your mouth is. And so there's an additional almost $8 million being thrown at this particular initiative being received by the County of Renfrew in relation to this $10 a day childcare spots. So I'm going to leave this with the CAO, so anyone wants to read through all the different charts and so forth. Very well presented. There is a YouTube, I have no doubt, YouTube presentation that individuals can watch as well when the county council was receiving this particular report. And as always, stay safe and be kind to one another. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Seeing none, councillor updates. Councillor Lafreniere, Councillor Keel.
Yes, when I was leaving home tonight, I forgot to bring my pamphlet of poems. But rest assured, in 2 weeks, I will return with a poem to begin our council meetings from the Cathedral School. My update tonight is in regards to the Civic Youth Awards. The deadline for submissions is April 28th. So I'm urging anyone either around the table or anyone in the community to think about nominating someone. The categories obviously are Civic Awards and Youth Awards. Now, Civic are for adults, and the categories are Spirit of Sport, Arts and Culture, Outstanding Senior, Good Samaritan, Civic Pride, and Community Service. And the criteria the criteria to be nominated, you have to be a resident of Pembroke or to have contributed significantly to the betterment of our community. You can be part of a volunteer group, but you cannot be part of a for-profit organization that has done work in the community. It has to be a not-for-profit. So I just want to get that out there. And when it comes to the youth awards, they have to be 19 years or under, and they must be a resident or a dependent of a ratepayer of the city of Pembroke. And the the categories for youth are personal courage, arts and literature, leadership, young athlete, and community contribution. So I really urge you, the celebration is going to be June 2nd at the Clarion Hotel, but please, when you see this on Facebook, please share it and ask people to send in their nominations before April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Frenier. Councillor Keel?
Thank you, Your Worship. On April 3rd, the Deputy Mayor and I attended a Waterfront Advisory Committee, and I just want to give the update that this year is the 25th anniversary of our beautiful waterfront, as it was revitalized in the year 2000. And so everyone should look forward to some special commemorative events coming up this summer. And I think, Deputy Mayor, I think we're looking at Canada Day as the main date. On April 5th, as Your Worship noted, I was also able to attend the Pembroke Professional Firefighters Association and Handybus Pancake Dinner. I also want to thank our Professional Firefighters Association. They do so much amazing work throughout the year, whether it's free skates, the pancake breakfast, the chili dinner in the fall. They do so much, Your Worship, and I really can't say enough nice things about our Professional Firefighters Association. And of course, one cannot say enough nice things about our Handybus. They do a different job than our firefighters, but in the same way, they're there for some of our most vulnerable residents to ensure that they can get out and about in the city of Pembroke, which of course only enriches their lives and their ability to enjoy our great community. On April 6th, the Festival Hall hosted the Australian Bee Gees. I was able to volunteer that night. The place was packed. It was an amazing concert. It sounded absolutely fantastic. I know Director Soriel was even there. I'm not going to say how much she was dancing around the aisles and stuff like that, but that was a great evening. And then this past weekend, on Saturday night, Festival Hall hosted the Liverpool 4, Pembroke Beatlemania, and yet another great concert that once again the main level was filled. I think there were 40-some people up in the balcony, even so two larger events so far this year. Upcoming at Festival Hall on May 2nd is the Pembroke Symphony Orchestra, the closer. So this is their closing event of the season, and there's tickets available for that. And then next month, Garth and Shania tribute concert. I haven't coordinated my outfit with the deputy mayor yet, but we'll get on top of that soon.
We were just wondering about that.
And
Who's going to be Shania and who's going to be Garth?
I'm not Garrett, or I'm not Shania.
And then Adio's Dance Studio on May 31st. But I think there's some other events. This is sort of the dance season, Your Worship. So I know some others are expecting to drop in the coming days and weeks. So certainly, even yesterday, Your Worship, I had the opportunity with Director Soriel and our chief building official and one of our bylaw enforcement officers to do a tour of Festival Hall with those individuals so that they can appreciate a lay of the land. It's just, we are truly blessed to have Festival Hall. It is the only professional theater between Ottawa, North Bay, Huntsville. So we're well placed to get acts that are traveling through. That's how some of our bigger concerts, Your Worship, are making their way here, because it's a great place to stop. We have a brand new, well, I shouldn't say brand new, we have a renewed agreement with Best Western to provide some rooms to some of our talent, to also help attract talent to the area. That has been renewed after it was, I guess, off the books for few months or a year or so. And I was able to meet with the owner of our Best Western, who comes up from Barrie, has a great love of the arts. They do some sponsorship down in Barrie as well. So Festival Hall is alive and well, and if anybody wants to look at the calendar, especially the fall calendar is already filling up substantially. The new website is www.festivalhall.ca. Thank you, Your Worship.
And thank you for facilitating that, because sometimes that's what it takes to get those partnerships, if I can put it that way, in terms of relationships. So we got Councillor Jack, and then we have the Councillor Purcell and Deputy Mayor.
Point of clarification on one of your comments, Your Worship. I hate to do this, but I have to. And a bit of a history lesson. You said you attended the 90th birthday party for Connie Ricardo. And you said he was a Mason. He was a Mason by profession, not through fraternal affiliation. I just thought I'd make that clear. Connie was a West End guy. There's a lot of West End people around. Yeah. He came here as a wave of immigrants in the late 40s and the 50s, and they lived in Little Italy on Jewel Street. And Connie and his cohort friend, Benjamin Rabishaw, who made sure that the Woolworth building that is now Giant Tiger first came to Pembroke. They worked out a deal so he would be the masonry guy to do the work. I guess he bid on it. But if you've ever seen The Sopranos, you know, a bid's a bid's a bid. But however, Connie, this is probably one of the largest construction masonry projects in the history of the city of Pembroke when the Woolworth building was built where Giant Tiger now stands. Mr. Ricardo, along with other Italian family members, the Baronis, the Rossis, Salvatis, the Di Stefanos, the Sanzos, they all contributed in a big way. They were masonry people. I mean, if you look at many of the homes in Pembroke, if you have a basement floor that hasn't had a crack in it, it was probably laid by Mr. Rossi, one of the Baroni brothers. So they contributed a great deal. And the Seymours and the Lapierres, who were related, they were all related. But Mr. Ricardo, obviously, he's not a real Mason in the sense of being a Mason or Knights of Columbus fellow. He is a Mason by profession. Thank you.
No, and he's very proud of his family. He's a very interesting fellow. I've never met him before, but very interesting fellow, very proud of his family. Showed me his wall of all his family members. He's very proud person. Councillor Purcell.
Mayor, I just wanted to state that I was at the curling club on Saturday, and we had the trivia for the pool, Friends of the Regional Pool, and I wanted to call out our CEO, our CAO, sorry, Dave Unraw. He was the winning team. So Team Pembroke actually won the trivia. So we have a Cliff Clavin within our midst here tonight. Great job, guys, that you guys did there. And it was, I think I heard it was up to about $180,000 that's been raised for the pool thus far. So great work that's actually being done by the Friends of the Regional Pool, and fun was had by all. And again, if there was an award that's going out, perhaps, you know, Dave, and I think it was Colleen, who else was on your team from the city of Pembroke? Elijah. And then Chief Sal. And your wife and Chief Sal. So really good, great team. And by the way, you beat Laurentian Valley's team. So that's good to hear. So if Laurentian Valley heard that, just a shout out, Alan, you got to do better next year for our team. All right, take care.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to thank Councillor Keel, all kidding aside, for the awesome job you're doing as representing the city on the Consortium Festival Hall. The passion you have, and having been in the concert business for many years myself, I know what it takes to promote, and I just want to thank you for that, and that you're doing an excellent job. Just have I have a few items, but just a couple of items, Your Worship. A few months ago, I was asked by Angela Zebarth, the Vice President of the Upper Ottawa Valley Heritage Centre, to help organize a fundraiser for the museum. And I got together with Mike Graham and Jeremy Connor, who donated the sound and arranged all the music. And we put together a fundraiser with volunteers from the museum last Saturday night. We want to thank all the attendees. We want to thank all the sponsors who came. And most of all, we want to thank all the musicians who donated their time. It was a fun time. We had lots of sponsors, and Mayor Gervais, thank you for sponsoring the charcuterie kit. We really appreciate that. The museum, one of the purposes of organizing this fundraiser, as the mayor fully knows, you're the treasurer this year. The museum needs financial resources. They need a new roof. It's going to be over 50 grand. They need a new roof for the Pioneer House, among other things. So they're doing different fundraisers, and they're trying to raise awareness. And this fundraiser was one of the reasons we did this, and we'll do it again next year. We want to thank everybody for attending, and please support our local museum. Community cleanup, this is on behalf of Councillor Giacono and I. The mayor mentioned it in his proclamation. It takes place April 21st to 27th. Full details are at Pembroke.ca Earth Week, but there's a prize package. The mayor and I have donated a rain barrel, and there's other great prizes. So you go to get your cleanup kit. There's 100 at the rec office. Take a picture of yourself cleaning up, submit it, and they make a draw for a prize. So, and we encourage everyone to clean up their local neighborhood during Earth Week and any time of year. On behalf of the mayor and I, once again, the community garden, we're raising money for the mostly for the St. Joseph Food Bank gardens that we support at the community garden. Rainbarrel.ca, the average price is about $65. We need 75 barrels for prepaid, and the deadline is May 23rd. So just go to rainbarrel.ca and look for Pembroke. And also on behalf of the mayor and I, the next community watch meeting is Monday, May 5th at the Pembroke Fire Hall at 7 p.m. We're going to have a guest speaker from Crime Stoppers. We encourage everyone to come. If you're concerned about creating safe and welcoming communities in Pembroke, come to the community watch meeting on May 5th. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Confirming bylaw, Councillor Lafreniere.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Troy Purcell, that bylaw 2025-43 to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council of April 15th, 2025 be adopted and passed. And further, that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Moved by Councillor Lafreniere, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 2025-43 to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council, April 15, 2025, be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Those in favor? It's carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Plummer. We are adjourned. Thank you.